And there could be a complex set of considerations for economists and financial experts to judge this budget, the budget of 2019. But for the salaried taxpayers, it boils down to some very simple things. Tax relief and exemptions under different heads, different parameters. So what kind of relief can they expect? Section 80C is a good avenue to save tax on many expenses and investments. Salaried taxpayers want the limit on Section 80C to be increased to 2 lakh rupees. Beside the 80C section, a rebate of 1.5 lakh rupees right now, there is an additional 50,000 rebate for investing in the National Pension Scheme, the NPS. In the interim budget in this year, the government had announced that no tax will be levied on your taxable income if your taxable income is 5 lakh rupees or below. But there was no change in the basic exemption limit, which remained at 2.5 lakh rupees for individuals below 60 years. Now, the salaried taxpayers of India expect the finance minister to raise the general basic exemption limit so that the benefit reaches all taxpayers. In the interim budget presented earlier this year, the people were allowed to have 2 houses as self-occupied property, but the exemption on home loan interest was not raised. The salaried class wants higher exemption on home loan interest. Most salaried taxpayers want the benefit of LTA tax exemption to be increased from twice in a block of 4 years to every year. Also, LTA exemption is allowed only for travel within the country. The government should extend this benefit to foreign travel as well. I'm assuming I'm speaking for all of you. What can we expect from the income tax on the income tax front? That's the question that is on everyone's mind. The Modi government did announce some tax relief in the interim budget earlier this year. There are expectations that the finance minister may announce some more relief, but not very much. So what are the possibilities? Well, here are some ideas. The most sought-after exemption is on the income tax limit. The government could consider raising the current limit from 2.5 lakh rupees. It could also consider giving more relief on pension withdrawals. In December last year, the government had hiked the tax exemption limit on withdrawals from the National Pension Scheme. The last Union cabinet had effectively made pension withdrawals 100% tax-free. But reports say that this tax benefit is yet to be notified. The finance minister could also choose to reintroduce tax-free bonds. The government uses tax-free bonds to raise capital for infrastructure projects, and these bonds are called tax-free because the interest earned through them is not taxed. Another option is to hike the limit on long-term capital gains tax. This is something that was introduced by the Modi government in its first tenure. It's a tax on gains made through sale of shares or holdings in mutual funds that were held for more than 1 year. And now the exemption stands at 1 lakh rupees. In the lead-up to the budget, here's also a comparison of the Indian economy from the time that the NDA government, this Modi government, presented its first budget in its first term, that was 2014, to how it is now. And we're breaking it down on a set of definitive economic metrics on how the economy behaved in the year 2014 and now in 2019, starting with the key parameter of GDP, gross domestic product. GDP growth, where things are not really looking good at the moment. During the 2013-14 year, it was hovering around 4.4 to 4.6 levels. But in 2018-19, there was a dramatic collapse from the highs of more than 8% growth at the beginning of the financial year to a meager 5.8% by the end of it. But all said and done, India's economy managed to notch up much better numbers than most other countries at the moment. Exports in 2014 were touching the $300 billion mark, and despite single-digit growth, India's exports hit a new high of $331 billion in the last financial year. The rupee versus dollar rate was around 50 to 60 rupees for $1 in 2014. Right now, it's down further between 60 to 70 rupees, but that has been offset by a surge of imports. As far as the unemployment rate is concerned, data from the NSSO is available between the years 2011 and 12 and 2017 and 18, and those numbers paint a stark picture because it has gone from a little over 2% to 6%. That's unemployment. While some parameters show the overall health of the economy, others inform us of the situation at the grassroots level. Inflation, for example, gives us a picture of how articles are priced at any given time. The retail inflation rate went from 8 to 10%, 10.5% by 2014. But in the past 1 year, it has hovered in the range of 3 to 5%. So inflation is much lower now, and this shows that prices of the articles have not gone up significantly in the past year. The repo rate, controlled by the Reserve Bank of India, impacts borrowers, particularly home buyers. Almost every single time there's a change. Back in 2014, it was around 7.5% to 8%, but by 2018, it went below 6%. And for the last 6 months, or 3 bi-monthly policy meets, the RBI has not tinkered with the policy rate very much.